Future Murphy here. I already filmed this video, but I forgot to mention that I started a second channel where I do reading vlogs, where I kind of take you through my week as I'm reading through things and do more in-depth discussions. So if this video isn't good enough for you and you'd like even more, I do have videos up on my other channel where I actually I talk about each volume a little bit more in depth. So if you need more Hunter x Hunter, you know, that's linked. Description, places. Back to the video. So today we're going to be talking about the first arc of Hunter x Hunter, the exam arc, which is the first 4 volumes plus just like a little chunk of the 5th volume. 38 chapters. That's the better way of saying that. I am exclusively reading manga, so I asked my patrons to help me with the pronunciation of these names. If I mess any of them up, please do correct me in the comments because I want to make sure that I'm getting them right. But anyway, I'm going to be talking about this first arc for Hunter x Hunter, which I loved. I'm going to be talking about it in 4 parts, well, 4 sections of one video. We're going to talk about the artwork, characters, plot, and then themes. And I know that that's a different reviewing style than I've been using for One Piece, but I feel like that suits at least this arc. But you could let me know if you like this reviewing style for Hunter x Hunter, or if you'd like something more elaborate and more, because you know I could talk more. But anyway, I want to start with art style. First of all, I really, really like it. It's very different from what I'm used to seeing in my limited experience with manga so far, but I really enjoy it. It's very simplistic, yet it has very intentional touches to it. Like the characters that are in focus for this particular scene are popping out of the panel, or like a character ducking under a speech bubble as he's objecting to what that speech bubble said, which I think is just such a clever little way to add a lot of humor and intentionality to a more simplistic art style. Plus, when Toshigi decides to go all out with his panels, like with his intense emotions that he draws, or with the landscaping he does, oh my goodness, I think that's where he shines. Honestly, my favorite part about the art style is when he draws new scenery and landscapes. It's gorgeous. But anyway, when he does really intense emotions or landscaping and he goes all out with his art, it just makes those things that much more impactful. It makes those intense, the bloodlust or the fear or I mean, joy is kind of a default for Gon, isn't it? It's so cute. But anyway, the more elaborate panels just stand out that much stronger against the more simplistic panels. On the other end of that, my complaint would be that I love Toshigi taking the time to discuss psychology with us throughout this arc. The way, according to studies and according to research, the way the average human responds to certain situations of stress or manipulation, he really dives into psychology several times, and I love that he adds that into there. As a very analytical reader, I'm constantly doing that myself, so having him have that discussion with me as I'm reading is awesome. However, I don't love that he does it in big walls of text. A lot of times the art style is very simplistic, sometimes basically not there, and it's just a wall of text while he's talking about psychology, which, as a novel reader, as someone who primarily reads novels and is only just getting into manga, I'm not bothered by walls of text. But it's the equivalent in novels to an exposition dump, where the story is basically pausing so that the author can deliver exposition. This isn't ideal, but it's not exactly a deal breaker. It's just, I'd rather you work it into the story more cohesively and more interestingly than pausing the story to tell me something, which is basically how I feel about this. I'd rather you work it into the story and the artwork more cohesively rather than pausing the artwork to tell me something. It's a minor complaint. It's not a huge deal. But I do love the art style as well. Another thing that I think he does so well is the effect of the page turn. One scene that really stands out to me is when our main 3 in the beginning finally get to the place where the exams are going to start. They're in the restaurant and they're all eating and celebrating and so happy that they've gotten this far, because 1 in 10,000 actually makes it to the exams, and these 3 made it. They're all 1 in 10,000. And there's such a lightness to the scene, and there's so much joy and excitement for what they've accomplished and how far they've come. And then you turn the page to a tunnel absolutely filled with bodies, filled with 1 in 1,000s. And it takes you from this high and this excitement of how far we've come to this stomach dropping, we have so far to go. And really, it's only just begun. And that, and two, also, he uses the simplistic art style. Then you turn the page and he goes all out to accomplish that effect. And I think he does amazing at it. And yeah, sometimes some of the panels are a little bit off, a little bit not the best, but my patrons have explained to me that the big reason for some of the panels not being drawn particularly amazingly, or some of the exposition being very bare in art style, is because of Tashigi's ongoing health problems. And I really don't have any major complaints, just little nitpicks. So I think it's fine, and I think it's understandable. So for characters, I'm gonna start talking about Gon because he's our main fella, and I love him. He has this very innocent, doe-eyed, holistic view to the world. The way he's pursuing the most lucrative, most impossible position that you can get, the most lucrative position in the world. And he's pursuing it with very little knowledge of what the competition is, or what's required of you, or even what you gain as a hunter. All he cares about is finding his dad. As he's faced off against opponents that he can't best, and as he's faced off against tasks that he can't physically do, he either, 1, calls on his friends because he doesn't want to do it alone because he knows he can't do it alone, or 2, is very cunning and thinks through the situation. He has a very young look on life, but he's also quite smart and cunning, like with the candle trick. The one character that had an oil-soaked candle for him, and so his candle was obviously, Gon's candle was obviously going to blow out first, and so his very innocent, sweet mind is just like, oh, sweet, this definitely isn't gonna blow out no matter how much I move around then. And then he just runs over and blows out the authentic candle, or the not oil-soaked candle. But he's also so purely good. Like with his aunt, he knows that his aunt has been lying to him, and he doesn't call her out, and he isn't mad at her. He loves her and treats her kindly despite the deception. When he's on the ship on his way to try to get to the trials, and everybody's seasick, and he's tending to them and caring for them. And throughout this arc, we see his innocence and kindness and holistic goodness winning people over to him, and that pureness of heart is what makes people decide to not attack him, not kill him, and at times even actually defend him when they were just about to kill him a minute earlier. I'm spending too much time on Gon because I'm trying to keep this review concise, but I love him. And honestly, I think that his entire self can be summed up in the scene where they're trying to find the navigators, and there's this situation where the people that they find are under attack by these creatures, and so Gon immediately springs into action and tries to attack, and does attack and get some good hits in on the ferocious evil creature. But then the moment the next creature comes in, who looks exactly the same, Gon doesn't react. He doesn't attack, even though he's being rushed. The creature is rushing him. He stands still and just says, "My name's Gon. What's yours?" And I feel like this scene alone sums up who he is as a person so well. The fact that when people are in danger, he springs into action and tries to defend them. But when a new creature shows up, first of all, he understands that they're not the same because of his natural giftings, but also when this new creature comes up, his his reaction isn't needless violence. His reaction isn't even to defend himself from this creature. His reaction is to introduce himself politely. I love that he is happy to attack whenever he feels it's necessary, but when he doesn't feel it's necessary, he won't do violence for no reason. Anyway, I need to move on. Next character. Kuropika, a character that I very much like, but don't know very well yet. His goal in being a hunter is to capture the Phantom Troop, the gang of robbers that killed his brethren 4 years ago. So his goal is revenge, and being a hunter is what would give him the resources to do it the most effectively. He has this very stoic disposition. He very rarely emotes, but he's also very wise and observant and seems to choose his friends wisely. I really like him and look forward to seeing more of him. My favorite scene for him is actually in the same scene as my favorite scene for Gon. It's when Liario, I'm actually not positive that I'm saying Liario right, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, he stays behind to help the injured people when they try to find the navigators. And then the creatures are shapeshifters. And when he shows up, Kuropika just hits him right in the face. And the creature thinks this is great. And he's like, how did you know that I wasn't your friend? And he says, I hate to disappoint, but I didn't. Liario said he would look after the injured man. I hit him because I thought he'd abandoned that obligation to saunter out here. Lucky mistake. I love that. I love that just blunt, you've done wrong, I will hurt you, despite the fact that we're companions at this point. I think it sums up or displays that character really well, the cold, calculated kind of mentality that is softened by the end of this arc. But still there, still very much there. Liario is the character that has, of the main cast, I'm fine with him, and he has some really good moments, but he's not a character that I've attached to as much as the others. I love that his surface level motivation of money is actually probably one of the most noble, if not the most noble, reasons of the 4, and that's to genuinely help people to become a medic, to become a doctor. I don't actually remember the way he worded it. I'm not finding it super easily. I don't remember if he said medic or doctor, but his reason was noble. I think my favorite scene for Liario, I'm just gonna say the cave scene, and then I'm not gonna go into it because I wanna talk about it more later. So we'll talk about my favorite scene for him later. Next character is Kalua, which is another one that I'm not positive I'm saying correctly, so correct me if I'm wrong, please. And he's my number 2. After Gon, he's my number 2. I adore his character. Right from the start where they're on their run, or the start of the tasks, when they're on the run, on their run through the tunnel, and he just pulls out his skateboard, well, he already had it, and he starts skating by while everybody else is running. It's not breaking the rules. It's hilarious and draws the attention to him instantly. But as soon as he sees Gon and he sees that there's a character that is the same age as him, he hops off his skateboard and decides to run. Which I love that little scene that was just fun and it endeared me to his character instantly, actually ended up really emphasizing something at the very end of the arc, which I'm getting out of order, but who cares? Who cares? When his brother is antagonizing him and gaslighting him and telling him that he's not built for friends and not worthy for friends, and when he says that you're a killer, you're not meant to have companions, you're meant to be an assassin like the rest of our family. And he says, I don't want to be an assassin. All I want is to be Gon's friend. And that scene alone is so powerful, but coupled with the beginning where we see him being a loner and just casually skating through the task, literally, and then he sees a kid his age and he stops and decides to run, decides to take the more strenuous path just so he can talk to a kid his age, it really emphasizes what his brother is doing and what it seems like his family has done, which is manipulate and gaslight him into being what they want him to be, beating him down and telling him that he's not worthy of something else or he's not built to have companions. But he's so isolated and so alone, and he just longs for a friend. And even at the very beginning, that longing is so strong in him that we see it in our very first introductory scene of his. And that, to me, displays that I'm in for something great, that this little introduction that was just endearing is actually a huge indicator of his character as a whole, and that those two could connect to only bring greater impact to what was already an impactful scene. I'm totally sold, and I love his character. He seems so bloodthirsty and so cutthroat. You know, there are some really intense and pretty terrifying scenes for this character when we see his bloodlust, like in the competition with the ball between Gon and him and the Chancellor. And he ends up dropping out when he realizes that he's not going to be able to win because he knows that he would kill to get the ball, and then he does kill people in the hallway just because he's irritated. The scene where Kuropika doesn't want to kill his opponent in the tower, and Kalua just says, "I'll do it. I'll kill him. It's not a big deal," which is so callous and cold. But then whenever he meets his challenger and he just wins in a second by ripping his heart out, you're terrifying. You're a terrifying character. But now that I know what I know about his brother and his family, he's been brought up to be this cold, hard, detached killer. And we see that in him throughout this arc. We see that detached, cold-hearted default that when that one character, the ninja character, says, "By the time I was your age, I had already killed someone." And Kalua in his mind is saying, "Just one? That's it? It took you that long?" And it's like, you good, kid? You all right? And the answer is no, he's not all right, because his family is terrible and they've raised him up to be a detached killer when all he wants is a companion and to be a kid and to be accepted and to have a friend. That's it. Which, by the way, that actually reminds me of another Liario scene that I love, and that's when the two brothers are facing off at the end of this arc, and Liario tells him, don't you realize Gon's already your friend? That's a wonderful moment for him. And poor Kalua didn't even realize he had a friend at this point. He didn't realize he was already his friend because that concept is so foreign to him. I love this character. Oh, he also looks into the face of really intense stuff, like in the tower when he's facing off against his opponent, and the opponent says, "I don't care about winning. I don't care about any of this. All I want is to dismember you and feel your flesh in my hands as I hear you screaming in agony." And Kalua's response is just, "Okay, so we fight to the death." And then he rips his heart out. I mean, the fact that this horrifying character who has the greatest bloodlust of anyone in the arc so far, not so far because the arc is over, in the arc, is facing off against Kalua and reveling in the idea of causing him agony, and Kalua doesn't even blink, makes me think that he's been through a lot up to this point. He's seen a lot to make him not care about that. I love his character. Oh my goodness. I'm still not done talking about characters. I will be brief with the rest. I'm so sorry. Tonpa, who plays a really big role with our 4 in the tower because he's our 5th and he's a bugger. I love him because he's not an antagonist. He's just a punk. He doesn't care about becoming a hunter. He just finds a lot of joy in making other people's lives harder. He finds a lot of joy in tripping other people up and making it impossible for other people to become hunters. This is his game. This is his sport. This is what he lives his life for. To antagonize others, but not in a true antagonistic way. He's not evil. He's not trying to kill anyone. He's not out for blood. He doesn't have bloodlust. He's just a punk. And I hate him more than any of the evil characters in this arc. But that's the thing, is a character like this done well, which he is done well, is a lot of times easier to hate than a truly evil character. Because a truly evil character you can hate, but then you can also love because they make a great antagonist. He's just annoying, but that's perfect because very few of us have faced off against someone who wants to dismember us and feel our flesh in their hands as they're ripping us apart. Very few of us want to, or have faced off against someone who decapitates people with a throwing card, with a playing card. This is not something that the majority of us have experienced. However, we've all dealt with punks, people who just thrive on making everyone else angry, making everyone else have a worse day. That is the character that invokes more rage in me because I know him. I've been with him. Not him, but I've been in the same room with him, and I want to leave the room. Last character I'm going to talk about in this dedicated character section is Hisoka, who is the card throwing guy. And he's an amazing antagonist. Why is he amazing? Not only because he has this bloodlust, because he's terrifying, because he is completely unpredictable and terribly powerful, but also he is such a mystery. He picks up Liario and carries him away to the next task because he deems him worthy. You're not a hunter. I think sometimes you are because you carry that phone and you're communicating with someone, and that is the thing that they indicate that hunters do, so you seem like a hunter to me, but hunters can't retake the tasks, right? So he can't be a hunter. Why you have one of those special phony thingies that only hunters seem to have? Does everybody have one? Who you talking to? But he also likes to play like a taskmaster and decides who's worthy to move on and who's not. He doesn't hesitate to kill. Oh wait, we're not talking about that. We're talking about why he's mysterious. Sorry. He leaves Gon with his number, with his own badge, and refuses to take it back and tells Gon that he won't allow him to take it back until he can land a punch like what he just landed. He lets Kuropika win in the one-on-one match at the end. He tells what's his name? Hang on, sorry. Illumi. He tells Illumi, the assassin brother, that I'm acting as if you don't know the names. I'm the one that still doesn't know the names. He tells him that Gon is his and he's going to kill him whenever he deems him worthy. What is it? What is the actual line? Did I not write it down? Sorry, 1 second. Thought I put it in my notes. So let me find it. There it is. Gon is mine. You make a move on him, you die. The assassin brother asks, so what now? And Hisoka says, I'll wait, and when the fruit is ripe, I pluck it. You good, bro? He also says, what's the other thing? It suits me better to let you live until you're a worthy opponent. That's what he said to Gon earlier. I'm talking about things out of order. I don't know. His motivation to become a hunter is so that he can kill more often than not and get away with it with no consequences. I don't know. He's a great antagonist because of his bloodlust, because he is ruthless, because he doesn't hesitate to kill until he does. Until he decides, you know what, I'm not gonna kill you. You know what? I'm gonna let you get stronger. Why? He acts like he's a taskmaster even though he's not. He just got his hunter card at the end. And the Chancellor and other hunter people would know if he had once been a hunter, because you can't retake the task, you can't get a new card issued to you. Who were you talking to on the phone? Why do you act the way you act? Why do you want Gon to owe you a favor? There's so much mystery in this character, and he scares me. He genuinely scares me, and I'm just so excited to see more from him. All right, I'm done. Plot. I enjoyed the plot of this so much. Gon is an excellent protagonist. He's a perfect contrast to this very dark storyline where people die literally around every corner. The tasks are incredibly brutal. Our opponents are incredibly brutal. And his wholesome innocence is such an incredible contrast to all of that. I happen to love competition plot lines. I love training plot lines. I love tasks. The only competition I didn't really like was the second task with you have to make sushi thing, even though I loved her. I loved the task master. She was amazing, but I didn't like the task itself. It wasn't. Actually, and the last task was very anticlimactic, but the characters themselves called it that, so at least it's self-aware. And it kind of works because after the anticlimactic end, we then find out that the tasks aren't actually over, which is very intriguing. But my favorite task of all the tasks is the third task because, oh no, not the third, that's the tower. I loved the tower, and I wish the tower were longer, and I wish we got to see them face even more obstacles in it. And oh gosh, okay. My favorite task is the fourth task, hunt or be hunted. Well, not really hunt or be hunted. It's you draw your, you know what the task was. You have to hunt down the person whose badge you're supposed to hunt down, protect your own badge, but you can also collect other badges if you want to collect, you know, one-pointers. The setup is excellent. I really loved the execution of it. Honestly, my biggest complaint for this arc is that, especially for the more interesting tasks, like the third and the fourth, I wish they were longer. I would like to experience more of the tower, see more of what it had to offer. I want to know what the other competitors went through. I want to see our people, instead of spending such a long drawn out time sacrificing their hours against the creepy, hooded, chained up people, which was awesome. And I'm not mad about the amount of time we spent there. But instead of spending most of our time there, I would like to keep that time and then add to it and do more tasks within the tower. Or more obstacles within the tower. And the hunt or be hunted, which is I don't know why I keep using that phrasing. The hunting task, I want more. I want more. I love it. But I loved that one specifically because, to me, these characters became comrades, they built up an alliance, they became accomplices. That's not the right word. They have an alliance together out of convenience primarily. They met each other at the beginning. They seemed to suit each other well. All right, we got each other's backs for now. And as they go through tasks, that just kind of strengthens more and more as they do continue to truly have each other's backs. But it was this task, to me, that solidified them from just being, you know, in an alliance together to actually being like bonded, lifelong, we're friends, we've got each other's backs. That was when, and this is also encompasses a lot of my favorite moments for several of the characters. That was when Liario told them, all right, alliance disbanded. We are no longer accomplices. We're no longer together. And the reason is because I don't want you to go into that cave after me. You've already got your points. You already win. Don't risk yourself for me, which is very unlike what I've seen from his character up to this point. He's been very like, I'm gonna accomplish my goals. And then he also trusted them with his suitcase, which I think says a lot because he's protected that suitcase, which Gon did protect his suitcase for him earlier, but it was more of a, I lost it. Gon protected it. This time he's handing it over to people that he's solidifying his trust in. Then when he's in the cave, he gets bit by those snakes and poisoned and is on track to die because he wanted to warn them not to come in so that they won't be at risk for the snakes too. This in stark contrast of when they're in the tower just one task previous, and he tells them when they have to face that question of 3 of you can go and actually pass the exam, or all 5 of you can go the long route and you will all fail because you don't have enough hours left. And Liario's response is, we're doing the 3. We're doing all three of us making it through, and I'm going to be one of those 3, which I felt was such a selfish, and like that actually kind of made me mad, because even though his goal is noble and true, he wants to be a doctor, he wants to help people, good for you, happy for you. But you're the reason we're in this conundrum. You decided to sacrifice a ton of our hours and to make it so that we can't take the long route because we're out of hours just so you could feel someone up. Dude, it's your fault we're in this position. It's your fault. We can't go the long way around. That's on you. You stay behind. And he's the one that threw away not only his hours, but his friends' hours. It didn't just affect him, it affected his friends. And then on the tail of that, finding out that they can't use the long route because of him, and he says, I'm going through, one of you is staying behind. Dude, you gotta be kidding me. That actually made me mad at him because it's like, you're the problem child. You and Big Nose are the problem child. What's his name? I should call him by his appropriate name. Tonpa. You and Tonpa are the problem children. You're obviously the ones that should stay behind. And then the next task, character growth, big time. He risks his life to tell them, to get them to not go in the cave, to warn them about the snakes. I mean, massive, massive change in behavior. Huge growth for this character. The moment it's solidified to him, you're my people, not just the people that I've been working alongside with, but I trust you and I care about you. His disposition changed from, I've got my goals and I will accomplish them, to, I'm gonna protect my own. I'm gonna protect my people. And that is my favorite moment for him. But also, that's not it. Also, Kuropika, previously when they were not facing off, but when Hisoka was going to take the 1-point badges from those two, and then Kuropika said, you can have this badge, which will give you 3 points. Which will give you 1 point, because it's 1 point to me and I don't need it. But you can't have my badge, you can't have his badge, you can't have this other badge that gives me 6 points. I'm gonna surrender this to you, but if you want the other ones, you will have to fight us. And he squared off and he was ready to fight because he was protecting those badges. Contrast that with this moment, which is in the same task, only a couple days later, where they're now all in the cave, and his first instinct, without thought, without deliberation, he tells the guy that is the snake guy, he tells him, you can have our badges, take our badges, just let us get Liario out of here so that we can get him safe and get him treatment. He didn't know that the guy was dead and that it was fruitless, but without hesitation, he offered up his badge and all the badges and was willing to lose the competition, potentially, to save his friend. Stark contrast from what he had just done with Hisoka. Just saying, I love this task and I love these characters. Then of course we have Gon, who is also amazing in this task, who gets bit to pieces so that he can get the potential likely to be antidote hidden on his person. And then as he is also dying of the poison and in pain and not able to move anymore, he says, give Liario the antidote first, which I love moments like that. And then he carries them all out. Oh my goodness, just this task. I've already mentioned that I find the 5th task pretty anticlimactic, but again, that was in the narrative. Everybody thought it was anticlimactic, which makes me think that that was intentionally done. But I do love that they all came out friends. I love that the bald ninja guy, Hanzo. I love that he follows that pattern of just seeing the goodness of Gon. That scene, actually, oh man, maybe this is my favorite Gon scene. When he's facing off against Ninja Guy, I've already forgotten his name again, Hanzo. When he is facing off against Hanzo and Hanzo is asking him why. Why are you doing this? Why is your pride so strong that you would die rather than just take the task? Again, next year, you'll make it through. Just surrender. And Gon's response is just, I want to meet my dad. Or I want to see my dad. Let me find it. There it is. I want to see my dad. Oh, man, that hit hard. Oh. And then when he goes up to Assassin Brother and he grabs him by the arm and he whips him around and breaks his arm and tells him to apologize. Oh, I love Gon. I don't know. The ending task was anticlimactic, but the ending character moments, oh, they were strong. Anyway, this video is already longer than I really meant it to be, so let's real quick talk about themes and wrap it up. This is a dark world, a dark competition. Being a hunter, you gotta go through stuff to get through it. And Gon being the light of the series, Gon being the contrast to that, I love it. I'm curious if he's going to continue to be that or if he's going to be affected by the world and change. I feel like his character was a constant throughout this whole thing. His character was the same no matter what he faced. He was someone that I I felt like I knew him from start to end. Whereas all the side characters, or the 3 main side characters, I saw growth. I saw change. I saw a very intentional change in them from the start to the end. But not so with Gon. So I'm curious if he's going to continue to be consistent throughout the series, or if he's going to have a much wider arc, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. There definitely is a theme of characters falling behind him and then at times even defending him, like the ninja guy when they were fighting and he surrendered because Gon's reason was honest and simple and not selfish. But then whenever Assassin Brother wanted to kill Gon, he was one of the people that blocked the door. So people falling in line behind Gon because of his just pure goodness is definitely a theme in the first arc, which makes me kind of think it's going to continue on through the series. Big themes of friendship and loyalty, which are my kryptonite. Friendship and loyalty, found family. This is, you can't really write a bad story with those themes in them, at least in my book. But also, I'm definitely the type of reader that's a foreshadowing hunter. I love foreshadowing so much, especially well executed foreshadowing, so I'm always looking for it as I'm reading. And one thing that really stood out to me was the second trial before the tasks, is that right? With the old lady in the village, and they had to go and answer her question, and you can only answer 1 or 2, and the answer was nothing. Anyway, she asked, do you save your son or do you save your daughter if you can only save one? And Kuropika realized what the point of this was, and the point was not to answer because there is no right answer. And because of that, they were able to move on. But Gon couldn't move on because he was really troubled by this question. He was really haunted by the idea of having to only save one of someone that you love. And his response is, that's great that we passed, but what if I'm actually faced with this someday? What if I actually have to do this one day? I don't know what I would do. I don't know what the right answer is. And the old lady reflected on, that was the point of this. That is the point of this task, is for you to reflect because you may face it someday, which I don't really know this author very well yet, so I don't know how keen he is on foreshadowing, but I may be projecting a little bit. But to me, now I'm just waiting for Gon to have to face this because I feel like at some point now that's got to come back around. He's going to eventually have to face against the situation of saving one of his friends, which honestly scares me a little bit because this world is pretty brutal. I'm a little bit scared because people die pretty easily here. None of our leads have died yet, so maybe it's one of those worlds where anybody could die and, you know, every character is at risk, but our main people, they have plot armor. So who knows? But I do think that Gon is eventually gonna have to, that question is gonna be asked of him. 2 of the people that he cares about, is it gonna be 2 of his friends? Is it gonna be one of his friends and his dad? I don't know, but I'm a little bit scared. And how is that gonna shape him? How's he gonna get through it? Is he just gonna, you know, outthink it and figure out a way around the obvious solution like he has all throughout this arc? Or is someone he loves going to die? I'm a little bit scared. Anyway, I've been here too long. I loved this first arc. I've had a great time. I'm very happy. And I'm definitely just diving straight into the second arc. If you don't already know, if you haven't already seen, I'll link a video where I talk about my rough schedule for plans for all this, but basically my Hunter x Hunter arc reviews are gonna go up every other week, and every other week are One Piece videos. So next week I'm gonna do a chapter review for One Piece, and then the following week will be the next Hunter x Hunter arc. So if you're interested, if you wanna hang out with me some more, you know, there will be more videos coming. I post videos every Tuesday and Friday. Friday are my manga days, so I'll see you, you know, soon.